Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Bol. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Jai Ra Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vajanandana Yashodanandana Vajanandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vajanandana Yashodanandana Vajanandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Everyone Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Sharad Vihari, Radha Sharad Vihari, Radha Sharad Vihari, Radhe. Jaya Radha Sharad Vihari, Radha Sharad Vihari, Radhe. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jagadguru Prabhupada, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Jaya Vaishnav Thakur. Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Ora Premanande. Jayom Vishnupad Paramhansa Privajikacharya Stotera Sata Shishimada's Divine Grace. Abhay Charan Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki. Nityalila Papishta Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Privajikacharya Stotera Sata Shishimada's Divine Grace. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Ananti Koti Vaishnavinda Ki. Namacharya Brahmacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. ISKCON founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Mathura Dham Ki. Navadvip Dham Ki. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki. Jagannath Swami Ki. Ganga Mai Ki. Jamuna Mai Ki. Tulasi Devi Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki. Sama Veda Bhaktavinda Ki. Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the Lord's feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga God Srila Prabhupada. Narayana namaskritya narom chevam narottamam Devim saraswati vyasam tato jayam udirayat Nashta prayesva bhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavata uttamastoke bhaktir bhavati naistaki Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Hare Krishna. So we welcome everybody to the Krishna temple. We've resumed the situation after COVID-19. For a while we could not reach from here, as it were, and now by Krishna's mercy, the Lord is the cause of all causes, is behind everything. So as He will, things will happen. And now we're continuing with. This afternoon I've been asked to give an overview of chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, a very important book for us. Devotees call it a basic book, but it has very, very important transcendental information in it that helps our growth, spiritual growth. So it's nice for all of us to gather and hear. I'm speaking, but I'm also hearing because it's through my guides, we call them my spiritual masters, that this information is coming. So it's not from me, it's going to be just through me, like that. So if you look on the board, or on the screen, it says, Bhagavad Gita as it is, we'll have an overview. So, as it says, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, action in Krishna Consciousness. All right, thank you. So, in all of the chapters, 18 chapters in Bhagavad Gita, each one has a summary in front, and then the details come. It turns out that chapter 5 has just one sentence as a summary. That's a little rare. Most of it is quite long. So the summary statement is what's here. It says, outwardly performing all actions, but inwardly renouncing the fruits. So a person is doing whatever they're doing on the outside, they see it, but if they're working for Krishna, then they understand that the results are always for Krishna. So it's not for them. So inside them, they know that I'm working, but Krishna would like it this way, and this is why I'm doing it for him. So the fruits of the action, that the person is not taking, it's given to Krishna. So renouncing all the fruits. So that's what it's saying. And that is categorized as a wise person. So the wise man, purified by the fire of transcendental knowledge, that means understanding what is what in Krishna consciousness. What does he do? The person attains peace, attains detachment. Detachment, that is detachment from the material energy, things that are disturbing materially. Forbearance. Forbearance is quite a few meanings. Tolerance, patience, sticking to it as times get tough. Then spiritual vision, which is given by Bhagavad Gita in the book itself. And bliss. In the dictionary, the bliss means the highest happiness. Now, we may not get that in the material world, but with the devotee, working towards it, at some point when we go to the spiritual world, the full bliss will be on display. Everybody, every soul that's there, we don't take the material body to the spiritual world. Material body, as you know, life ends, it stays here. He either gets buried, he gets cremated, or other people have different ways of disposing of the body. But the spiritual part, the soul, is the real person. That goes on. And when they go into the spiritual world, all that acquire the mercy of Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, through Guru, and go back to the spiritual world, they will be in highest happiness, bar none. There will be no disturbances like we go through here, like disease and old age and the bones getting weak and all those things. That's not in the spiritual world. That's not in the spiritual world, only in the material world. All right, now, so, this is the summary of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5. Now, we've chosen 3 texts from chapter 5. We're going to discuss those today. The first one is text 18 of chapter 5. So what I'm going to do is pull up the Sanskrit and ask us to repeat the Sanskrit. So here it comes. So just repeat after me. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Cheva Shwa Pake Cha Pandita Sama Dashina. Okay, now here comes the word for word translation. I'd like you to repeat after me also. Vidya, education. Vinaya, gentleness. Sampane, fully equipped. Brahmane, in the Brahmana. Gavi, in the cow. Hastini, in the elephant. Shuni, in the dog. Cha, and. Eva, certainly. Shwapake, in the dog eater, the outcast. Cha, respectively. Pandita, those who are so wise. Samadashina, do see with equal vision. Hare Krishna, maybe some toys can be given to the little girl. Is there toys in the corner here? She can play with. You can tell the parents about it. Okay, there are toys in the corner that the child can play with. Okay, that way she can get occupied. Hare Krishna. So the English translation, I'll read it once and then we'll take word section by section where you repeat after me. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, outcast. Please repeat. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, outcast. Hare Krishna. So I'll say a short prayer and then we'll continue. Om Agena Timidanyasya Gyana Gena Shalakaya Chaksho Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaisnavamscha Shri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Paramami Hari Priye. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sundibhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Hari Gaura Bhaktavinda. You can follow with me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatiyadi Shatarine. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurachishe Namaha. Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Himabhya Divacha Vissundaraya Tasmi Mahaprema Raspadaya Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. So we'll be reading 3 texts. This is the first one. And I ask permission not to get into the purport because there's 3 of them, 3 texts. So we'll have some description here. And then you can ask questions. So the translation for 518 Bhagavad Gita. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater or an outcast. So what's being said here? By Srila Prabhupada's mercy, he has translated this. I didn't know any Sanskrit. Without him translating, I wouldn't know what this is. So by the Lord's mercy, through his pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, now we know what this particular Pandita Samadashina, the last line for the Sanskrit, what it means. The humble sage. The first thing is humility. Humility. No Krishna consciousness without humility. Sorry. Because Krishna consciousness involves obeying fully the Lord's instruction. Now, you know, we have our own minds. We like to make decisions and so on. And so if we're going to be devoted to Krishna and we're going to be hearing what he says, then it means that whatever that he says, that goes along with what we normally thinking and doing, that's no problem. We're going to do. Whatever he says that does not go along with what we think and do, we still have to put ours aside and do his. That's called full surrender. So Krishna's word is it. And if we do that, then we have obviously put our way of thinking on the side and we're taking Krishna's instructions. Therefore, we have humbled ourselves in front of Krishna. Otherwise, we won't be listening to him. That's the ego. The other way. So, the humble sage. Now, a sage is a person who is dedicated to Krishna. So, even now in Kali Yuga, if we put our efforts in Krishna consciousness, then even though we're not in Himalayas doing some meditation there, but by definition, we are also sages. Because we're doing what Krishna wants. So the humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge is spiritual knowledge. Material knowledge is there, but you know material knowledge changes every now and then. Another article comes out in science and it refutes the previous article. We thought it was like this. As a matter of fact, one time I heard something about, now we don't do that here, intoxication, alcohol. There was articles, 2 articles about alcohol. And one of them said, alcohol is not good for you. And the other one said, a little bit of alcohol helps you. Now, which one would you choose? But there's 2 articles saying 2 things that don't go together. Anyway, here, no intoxication. So the point we're making is sometimes in material knowledge they say this, and then they say this other thing, they say this, and that other thing. I'll give one more example. So I graduated, undergraduate in Ghana, then came to this country to graduate school, chemistry. So there were some things obviously I learned in chemistry. Graduate, they came to Ghana, to the United States from Ghana. And the question was asked in class about that particular thing that I studied. So I remember I raised my hand and I answered the question based on what I was taught. And the professors looked at me and smiled and said, "We don't think that way now." I'm going, How goes my knowledge, right? I had passed exams and all of that. Now I come to graduate school and say, "We don't think that way now." So it's like that. Material energy, it changes. Material knowledge, it's in flux. But spiritual knowledge does not change. The soul is the real person. That doesn't change. The body is in a material world, a material planet for a while, and then it's gone. Now, if a person tries to do well in Krishna consciousness so that that body that they're in, after it leaves, they don't come back to the material world, but they go to the spiritual world, without any material body anymore. This time the soul goes to the spiritual world and comes into its fullness. That's what we want. That's where the bliss is. That's where all knowledge is. That's where there's eternality. A person does not die. Here, there is no real knowledge. So it's asat. No eternality. No, asat, achit, then nirananda. No bliss. Those three together. So, that's the way we are stuck with here in the material world for a while, unless we take the process seriously and go back. And in Kali Yuga, the main way to take the process seriously is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. So, because the soul is in different types of bodies, and the soul quality is the same, it's just that in different bodies. So then, the sage, who has the real knowledge, sees not the physical body, but the soul. So in all bodies, the soul is the same in quality. That's why the soul is seen, or the sage sees, even though they sees the physical body, they know that inside the physical body is the real person, and therefore they see with equal. Samspasha, ja, bhoga, dukkha, yonaya, eva, te, adi, antavanta, konteya, natishu, ramate, buddha. Word for word. Yea, those. He, certainly. Samspasaja, by contact with the material senses. Bhoga, enjoyment. Dukkha, stress. Yonaya, sources of. Eva, certainly. You can do a little louder, I know you can project a little more. Te, they are. Adi, in the beginning. Antavanta, subject to. Konteya, O son of Kunti. Na, never. Teshu, in those. Ramate, take delight. Buddha, the intelligent. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Please repeat. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end. And so the wise man does not delight in them. So, what is being said here is an intelligent person, or same as a wise man, does not delight in things that are temporary and going to be finished in a short period of time, relatively short period of time. And things in the material world are also miserable. Many people go, well, I'm rich, I have this, I have that, how come my life is miserable? It can't be miserable. Well, let's look at what the material world offers and what the spiritual world offers. In the material world, you pay for everything. You have to pay. You don't have money, you don't have it. You cannot pay where you live, you're not going to be there. You pay. Rich man pays, poor man pays. In the spiritual world, everything is free. Krishna gives it free. And it's wonderful at that. Of course you don't pay, so why would you be in anxiety in the spiritual world? There is no anxiety. The body fails here. The material body, it fails. It gets old and it just doesn't work anymore. So then you know, and the soul goes through, I call small, medium, large. Baby, teenager, and then adult. And then we get past adult healthy, the adult body's breaking down. That's called an old person. Hare Krishna. So, so similarly, tata dehantara prapti. Tata dehantara prapti. Dehantara prapti means after the body that is old and useless has quit working, normally in the material world there's another one. The soul takes birth in another body based on the desire of the person when they were in the last body, what their mind was thinking about. See, the soul is carried by the mind and intelligence to the next existence. So the mind thinks of different things. And so at the time of death, the mind is thinking, I wish I was quite rich. I didn't make it this world in as wealthy a situation as I would have liked to. Then it gets ready to say, oh, he wants to be rich. All right. There's wealth in the material world. Bring him back to the material world and make him rich. So put you in another body. I want to be rich, but I didn't like women too much, so I don't want to be a woman. Fine. You be rich, you be in a man's body. I didn't like men too much. Sure, you find you be in a woman's body. And God forbid, you were very, 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 or somebody, I'm saying you, somebody was very, very ferocious, very uncaring, didn't matter to them how they hurt somebody, very violent. What animal does that? Tiger? Lion? So you're thinking that way, you live that way, and then, so most of the time, you're that way. If you're that way, then at the time you're dying, what you're thinking about most of the time during your lifetime is what you're going to be thinking about at the time of death. The predominant thoughts. So if there is that kind of violence, I don't care about this, then you're going to be put in a body that doesn't care about those kind of things. You're going to be violent, sure. Then violence. Or maybe a situation where you like animals. There's nothing wrong with liking animals. But you will meet so much of it at a time you're thinking, you're going, my pet dog, what's going to happen to my pet dog? See, the Prabhupada actually said this stuff. I'm making it up. He actually said this. My pet dog, oh, let me leave some property for my pet dog. So Prabhupada says, you may leave property for a pet dog, but you are going to be dog. Why? Because you were thinking about dog when you were dying. So the mind says, dog, okay, go to dog. You're a nice person. So nice, be poodle and be in somebody's nice house and getting taken care of properly. But your dog, though, because you were thinking about a dog. So you have to be really, really, really careful. That's why the wise man does not delight in anything material. they focus on Krishna consciousness. Hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna, remembering Krishna, offering obeisances to Krishna, worshipping the deity, praying to Krishna for spiritual growth, not material things. If it's material things, that means you're thinking again about material. The wise man doesn't delight in that. Krishna knows what we need, so why do we push him, give me this, give me this? He created the whole world. What is he doesn't know what you need? You don't have to ask him that. He already knows. If you serve him well, he will provide way everything you need and then some. As long as you're not going to go to Maya and waste it. If you waste it, then he has no reason to give it to you. But if you're going to spend it properly, yeah, he'll give you more than you expect because you're going to use it well. So that's how those who are intelligent, this is how it's defined in spiritual life. Intelligent. Intelligent person does not take part in the things, sources of music, things that are temporary. We are in contact with the material senses, and the nose wants to enjoy something material, the mouth wants to enjoy something. You could fill in the blanks. So many things that sometimes are abominable. We eat it anyway, and people are smoking their lives away, And sometimes you think about it. You buy a cigarette and you smoke, and you waste the money, and the smoke goes into the air, so it's like your money goes into the thin air. You smoke it away. And then the body takes the rest of it and says, I'm sick. The lungs take the wrong thing. It's not good for the lungs. We get sick. And then we say, that's how we enjoy. How can that be? So this so-called pleasures, O son of Kunti, Krishna talking to Arjuna, and that's the pictures that you see here on the side. Krishna talking to Arjuna, Krishna up talking to Arjuna, Arjuna offering obeisance. The whole Bhagavad Gita is like that, and that's why I put the picture there. O son of Kunti, Arjuna, such pleasures have a beginning and they have an end. Spiritual life goes on and on and on. There is no end. You start here, you go to the spiritual world, you continue forever. There is no stop. So those of us here, we were in touch with material energy, and then the spiritual master has now come. Our guides have changed our minds. It's called Oma Gyanati Miranjasya. I was born in a darkness of ignorance. And our spiritual master changed our way of thinking into not dark thinking, but the thinking in the light. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances to Guruvaya Namaha. So, we are being pushed. When you come to the temple like this, you're going to see that all the business here is for Krishna, 100%. So even hearing or singing or arti, all of that for Krishna. And that's what the intelligent person should be about. So it is, by default, a statement that everybody is intelligent, because you're here. Because you're here. To hear about Krishna. And that is already intelligent. So people are saying, yeah, there's intelligent persons here and people with high IQ and so on. The intelligent person is the one that realizes that this material world is not going to satisfy our senses and make us totally happy ever. Therefore, we should try to go home. That's real intelligence. Because this body, at some point, is going to fall apart. So such pleasures, material pleasures, have a beginning and an end. And so the wise man does not delight in them. Any questions about this? Okay. So we're supposed to stop at 6:30. We got one more. So that's Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, text 29. So, okay, we're going to go through the text again. So repeat after me. Bhoktaram, little loud. Yagya, tapasam, sarva, loka, maheshwaram, suhridam, sarva, bhutanam, gyatva, mam, shantim, richati. Word for word. Bhoktaram, beneficiary. Yagya, sacrifices. Tapasam, of penances and austerities. Sarvaloka, all planets and the demigods thereof. Maheshwaram, the Supreme Lord. Suhridam, benefactor. Sarva, all. Bhutanam, of the living entities. Gyatva, thus knowing. Mam, me, Lord Krishna. Chanting, relief from material pangs. Richati, achieves. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. Please repeat. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. So that will be our last one for today. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities. Knowing me means Krishna. The sages. By the way we practice, that we could be lumped in with the sages. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices. It means all sacrifices are meant to satisfy the senses of Krishna. And all austerities are also meant to please Krishna. The sages know that. But we should be aware that it's like that. So we also offer sacrifices, it should be for Krishna. And we do austerities like some of the days Janmashtami came and we were not eating until 12 midnight unless you were sick. That was an austerity for Krishna. On Krishna's birthday, appearance day. So, the sages, knowing me to be the Supreme Lord of all planets. Every planet, material or spiritual, belongs to Krishna. Without Krishna, there cannot even be the word creation. No Krishna, no creation. Why? Well, the creation is two, right? We have a spiritual and we have a material. That's it. Spiritual and material. Now, the material, who did it come from? It's called Mahavishnu. Karunadakshaya Vishnu. But who is Karunadakshaya Vishnu? It's an expansion of Krishna. An expansion of Krishna. The material universes, according to the scriptures, come from the pores of Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu is huge. You can't imagine how huge he is. The planets come from the material planets. So, by Mahavishnu, the expansion of Krishna, the material planets come to be. Well, that leaves the spiritual world, right? That's the only one. The spiritual world is from expansion of, I don't normally like to ask questions, but does somebody know? It doesn't matter if you don't. If you know, which expansion of Krishna is responsible for the spiritual world, if you know. No problem. Balaram. Okay? So the first expansion, plenary expansion, don't feel bad, we're here to test you. Plenary expansion of Krishna, Balaram, is where all the spiritual world, that's from him. So now, the spiritual world is covered by Balaram, the material world is covered by Karunadakshaya Vishnu. That's it. All of existence is material or spiritual. And Krishna's expansion covers it. So without Krishna, nothing can be. So they know, the sages know that the Supreme Lord is the controller and creator, or we don't call the spiritual world created, because spiritual world is always there. Material world is what comes out of the pores of Mahavishnu. The Supreme Lord of all planets and those that have been given the responsibility for running things or affairs in the material planets. These are called demigods. They are not at the level of Krishna himself. It's almost like, it's a company and the owner of a company or the CEO. That would be God. And then there's vice presidents of the different departments. That would be these demigods. Like that. That's why we can't use the word God for them. It's like demi is sub-gods. But they are responsible for they help Krishna in the different affairs. But Krishna himself doesn't do much of that. He just likes to have a good time. If you are God, you created all these things too. Would you just work? No, you have fun. So that's what Krishna is. So, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, and the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities. This is an explanation of Krishna's love. It only takes a loving person to be a well-wisher. If one is a well-wisher of another person, that means they care about that person. When they care about that person, it means they love that person. You say they like that person. But like is just a lower form of love, that's all. When your likeness grows, and you say, oh, I love this person. It's just lower on the scale, we say like, and higher, until you're just madly in love, that's 97% like that. But it's all love. So, well-wisher of all living entities. By the way, when Srila Prabhupada writes letters, when he was writing letters to his disciples, every time, to you like yours sincerely or Hare Krishna, so he wasn't ending like that. He says, your ever well-wisher. Your well-wisher forever. Srila Prabhupada, that's the way he ended it. That means I will love you forever. Even though you have a few things to go to clean up to be a better devotee. But, as a spiritual master, he says, ever well-wisher. So, Supreme Lord of all planets, the benefactor, and well-wisher of all living entities. A sage who understands Krishna to be that way is peaceful. They've got the understanding of who Krishna is. So they attain peace for the pangs of material miseries. So material miseries may be there, but they don't play into it. They don't play into them. And it happens, so yeah, it's like summer and winter, they come, they go. As they say in other scriptures, this too shall pass. And I think that's a Jewish one, this too shall pass. We don't get attached to it, because one day our bodies also shall pass, and then our soul will expand. As long as we've been doing the spiritual thing correctly, Krishna would accept us back. And then we don't have to worry about any miseries, because there are no miseries in the spiritual world. It's all bliss. That's why we're trying to get to that. So, the sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, the sages, knowing that they attain peace and they get disconnected or detached from the material energy, the pangs of material miseries. Any questions? Okay, so we have 5 minutes, and so this, we want to bring this up again. Hopefully you can see, the statement. The statement that summarizes all of chapter 5. We have taken about 5 minutes. So, if you think about what's been talked about, those not playing into any material things, those who know that material things are temporary, this is all from the text. Those who know Krishna to be the supreme, it's summarized here. So they do what they're supposed to do. That's like Arjuna in the battlefield. He was shooting arrows according to what Krishna asked him to do. Now Duryodhana was also shooting arrows. But Duryodhana was shooting for himself. He wanted to be the next king. Krishna had Arjuna, who didn't want to shoot arrows first, change his mind and decide to fight because he was doing that to satisfy Krishna's senses. Whatever Whatever the result was, he wasn't concerned. He was told not to be concerned about it. As long as you do what Krishna says, don't worry about the result. And so that was what Krishna was doing. That's what we should be doing. Always serving each other. You start with devotees first. You want to serve, you want to relate nicely in the spiritual world, or the spiritual world people are not here. Material world people are here. So when you come here, you practice how to relate in the spiritual world by relating well to the devotees who are here. So if you get into trouble here and you start criticizing, which means you're going to be criticizing the spiritual world, they won't let you in the first place because they don't want you to come do that kind of stuff there. So the rules are set up like that. It says aparad, an offense. Aparad, you can't go. But actually the purpose of this whole thing is they don't want you to go cause problems. They don't want me to go cause problems there. Okay? So we have to be very nice to everybody. Use mild words, not cutting words. Sometimes you have to just, the person is too upset with you, just stay away from them, because if you go and bang, then two heads banging, it's going to be a problem. So sometimes you just have to be quiet, and then later on things get solved by Krishna's mercy. So outwardly performing all actions, but inwardly understanding that the fruits are for Krishna, the wise man who understands transcendental knowledge and is purified attains peace. Remember it says peace from material pangs? That's it right here. Peace, detachment from material energy, and they stick to it, forbearance, spiritual vision, and bliss. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much for listening. Hare Krishna. Jai. Happy to answer them. I'll be happy to answer. Or maybe you. So the summary is still on the screen. The summary is on the screen. So what's your takeaway? Just say in your own words.
You want to say something, Drew? I thought I heard your voice, that's why I said that. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't put you in the spot. I thought I heard your voice, I thought you wanted to say something.
We're all family here. You can't make a mistake. There is no such thing as a mistake. Yeah, so say something. Exactly. This is so wonderful. You think about Krishna. Thinking about Krishna so much, you chant, and then the time comes, the dominant things that's in your mind the whole life is what's going to be more prevalent at the time you're going to leave the body. Therefore, if you think of Krishna more, there's a very, very, very high chance that you're going to remember Krishna. Or even Krishna will send his devotees to come around you and chant Hare Krishna so you can hear and go back. Very, very good. Any other takeaway? Yes. Yep, wonderful. Think about Krishna. Oh, you wanted to comment, sorry.
No, I'm enjoying the takeaways.
You got 2 takeaways.
Thank you so much.
You think about Krishna, you go to Krishna. You think about the Lord, well, I don't know.
And also what I like is that, that we have practice here. This is our school.
Yes. It's called the School of Love. We practice how to love. Yeah.
Practice here so we get better. So that was a nice takeaway. Thank you so
Krishna Prabhuji, please
Hare
accept
Krishna.
my humble
Accept my
obeisances.
worship.
The very first thing which we always talk is humility. Uh, when there is humility, there comes ego first. And it is very difficult to practice humility because it's always like the ego interferes always. So humility, to understand humility, like it's a very difficult situation. Like we have to be vulnerable. That's what I feel like. If I am vulnerable enough, I can be humble.
Srila Prabhupada, very good point. Srila Prabhupada defines humility in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text 8 through 12. Things there he calls knowledge, and everything outside of that Krishna says is ignorance. The first thing is humility, amanitva. And Srila Prabhupada defines it that we shouldn't be so eager to claim honor for ourselves. We shouldn't be. Sometimes the situation, somebody just gives some large donation for a hospital, and then they put a building up and they put his name on there, Blocker Hospital. This person's called Blocker. Everybody knows going forward, I'm the one that contributed to it. Honor. Well, it's nice, but if you gave the money and didn't want anybody to know it was you, it's anonymous. Wouldn't Krishna appreciate it more? You're not bragging. You're not bragging about it. You're not bragging like that. So that's one of the definitions of humility.
And another point is like the spiritual world is always the same and constant. It doesn't change. So, but in material world, like it changes so constant.
Material world is change. Change.
So it's very difficult to rely, to trust.
Yeah.
So much of confusion. So much of confusion. Like if you met a person a few days back, and after a long gap, you meet the same person, but the person is not able to connect to you and understand you in the same level. So that is
difficult.
That is difficult. Yes, that is difficult because we have a set image of the person that we met, and now it's different. So it's difficult. But in spiritual world, it's like whatever you are, whoever you are, you have a space. You have a. I mean, there's something that you can always come back to.
Yes. The spiritual world, the soul has all knowledge, therefore you don't forget.
Yeah.
You don't forget anybody.
Yeah.
But here, those things can happen for various reasons.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just don't remember well because our minds is not that great. You get older, you get a little even less able to remember. Or sometimes, some people too, there wasn't good relationship between the person, therefore they just really want to forget about that person anyway. Yeah, so those things happen. But material world is like that, but spiritual world is wonderful. Hare Krishna. Any other takeaway? Any other thing?
Wonderful takeaways, such nice realizations that we all can learn and really meditate and improve on ourselves. The next part of the program, anyone thank Krishna for a wonderful class, and he has a very nice overview.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He's the one that deserves it.
And this is our fifth session, so we have, and we want to really aim to complete the 18 chapters. Each week an overview by Gita Jayati, which is December. Then we understand the overview, then that's the whole idea. Then we come to what called Krishna Consciousness. And that's why we call it Bhagavad Gita for the modern time, because it is getting modern. Everything is high tech. So sometimes we think, what is this ancient literature have to do with
Rath Yatra village. What is it?
September 25th is Philadelphia Rath Yatra. Yes. And one quick thing is October 2nd, we have Silver Spring Fall Festival, right, Richard? Silver Spring Fall Festival, we are able to, we use a lot of opportunities to share with everybody the stories of the holy names and what Prabhupada has given us. So on October 2nd, at the Silver Spring Fall Festival, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., we have a booth for food distribution and we have Harinam Kirtan going on. We would like to ask devotees to please make yourself available to really support the devotees who are engaged in the service, the wonderful service that they do. And it's so nice because that's exactly what Prabhupada did. When he came in 1965, he just sat under a tree at Congress Square Park in New York, had a little drum, and just chanted the holy name. That's all he did, nothing else. And he said that's what we have to do, just share the Maha Mantra and touch the souls of many, the hearts of many, souls. So please do mark your calendars if you need more information. We have Nishit Prabhu, who's a book team member so far for today. That's him. Any questions, please see Nishit Prabhu. Very powerful young guy. Very, very powerful young guy. So please do reach out to us. We'd love to have more support. So let's get ready for Aarti. It's starting in 2 minutes. I'll have Richard give me the gardens and we'll go into the Aarti. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everyone. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We can stand up. So sing quite loudly Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Vastatya Dishatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Go Bhaktavinda. Everyone. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Go Bhaktavinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Go Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everybody, louder. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everyone. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everyone. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jagana, Jaya Jagana, Jaya Bharani, Jaya Subhada. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Premanande. We all offer obeisances. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivajikacharya Astottara Sata Shishi Maharaj Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivajikacharya Astottara Sata Shishi Maharaj Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananta Buddhi Vaishnavini Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas 192 rounds Ki Ganga Mai Ki, Jamuna Mai Ki, Tulsi Devi Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki, Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga glories to the Prabhupada. So as was announced earlier, this one, Shingadev, is for Shrikant Prabhu's relative. Namaste Narasimhaya Singhaya Phaladayine Hiranyakasipu Vaksa Sila Tankana Kalaye Ito Nesingo Parado Nesingo Ito Nesingo Parado Nesingo Yato Yato Yamitato Nesinga Vaye Nesingo Vidaye Nesingo Vaye Nesingo Vidaye Nesingo Nothing Amadi Sharanam Papadi Tarakara Kamara Bare Nakam Abhuta Singam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam Keshavadita Narari Rupa Jaya Jagadishare Jaya Jagadishare Jaya Jagadishare Keshavadita Nararupa Jaya Jagadishare Jaya Jagadishare Jaya Jagadishare Jaya Nasingade, 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 Jaya Nasingade. Jaya Palan 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 Jaya Palan Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Sringa Bhagavan ki, Prahlad Maharaj ki, Jai Gaura Bhavanande.